I'm not teaching, I am publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in the UK test part 173, 2010 onwards and Brexit, part 2, while doing the leg stretching. And if you participate in the leg stretching, that is at your own risk. Let's start with leg stretching. So we're bringing one leg in front, the heel on the ground, and we're putting the toes towards us. That stretches the leg already. And now we're contracting from time to time the quad muscles. Start with contracting the quad muscles. So we already had that in May 2010, for the first time since 1974, since February 1974, no political party won an overall majority in the general election and release of contraction. But keep it straight. So in 2010, did not one party win the majority of votes, but they had to form a coalition, and these were the Conservatives and the Liberals, and the leader of the Conservatives, David Cameron, became Prime Minister in 2010 and contracted again with muscles. The Conservative Party won a majority at the general election of 7th May 2015, and David Cameron remained Prime Minister and released contraction. So there was another general election on the 7th May 2015 and contract again. And the Conservatives won again, they won a majority, and David Cameron stayed for another 5 years Prime Minister and released contraction for last time. The Conservative government called a referendum on the UK's membership of the European Union. Contract again. So the government called all the people, so said to all the people in the country that they can go and vote. So the referendum, all the people can come and give a vote. And that vote was about if England should stay part of the European Union. We have it here shortly. Now we are running in front. With the heel on the ground, putting the toes to muscles, and we're contracting the quad muscles. So we had here that there consists, the EEC existed, the European Economic Community, out of West Germany, France, Belgium, Italy, Luxembourg, and Netherlands, and that they then became the European Union in 1993 and released the contraction or keep it straight. And that the United Kingdom was part of the European Union, but it left the European Union formally on 31st January 2020. So, and now we're having that here. So there was, the Conservative government called a referendum on the UK's membership of the European Union. So the people of the United Kingdom could vote if they would stay in, if they want to stay in the United Kingdom, or want to in the European Union, or want to leave the European Union, and release again this contraction. And this referendum was held on the 23rd June 2016, and contract for last time. So in 2016, then there was this referendum on the 23rd June. And the UK voted by a margin of 51.9% to 48.1% to leave the European Union. So a slight majority said they wanted to leave the European Union. The anchor chain stability test, next exercise, the toes are pointing forward and we're pressing a little bit with the leg into the ground. So 51.9% wanted to leave and 48.1% to stay, and in a democracy the majority wins, so 51.9% for leaving. David Cameron was succeeded as Prime Minister after the referendum by Theresa May, and release the stretch a bit but keep the leg there. So on the 13th July 2016. So after David Cameron was Prime Minister from 2010 until 2016 for 6 years, and stretching the leg into the ground. And after David Cameron, Theresa May became Prime Minister. She in turn was succeeded by Boris Johnson, having again an asterisk on the 24th July 2019. It means something is outdated or something. And Theresa May was succeeded by Boris Johnson. And we're going to the other leg. The other leg to the outside, and we're pressing a bit into the ground. So then we had David Cameron here listed from 2010 and 2016, and then Theresa May from 2016 until 2019, and then from the 24th July 2019 on, Boris Johnson. And the UK formally left the European Union on the 31st January 2020. After Boris Johnson, I think it was distrust for 2 months or a month, and then there was Rishi Sunak for 1.5 years, and in 2025 it's Keir Starmer. So release the contraction a bit, but keep the leg there. The UK voted by a margin of 51.9% to 48.1% to leave the European Union. So 51.9. Let's just go for just one number. The other one excludes the other one. So there seemed to be no one who said, I don't know. And no one seemed to make a wrong X somewhere. All counts were regular. I think they used only the correct answered votes. There's every time there's 0.5% or something which does not, of a voters who does not write anything useful on the paper. And stretch for last time it around. So 51.9% said yes to leave, and the United Kingdom left the European Union, formally on the 31st January 2020. We should check that we understand not the whole chapter that was. I think Britain since 1945, that whole thing. And we're going to the next exercise, the hydraulic carjack. When I get the outside with the flex foot, and we're bringing it up, and again back, and the main part of the body tries to stay frontal as much as possible. Check that you understand the establishment of a welfare state. Well, we know that the people wanted change after the Second World War. The country won, but the economy was exhausted, and the people wanted change. And Winston Churchill was conservative, and now we voted for a Labour Party, and that was led then by the Prime Minister Clement Attlee. And Clement Attlee then said maybe many things of the things proposed by the Beveridge report, done by William Beveridge, to the other in act, and this was already commissioned by the war government in 1940, and in that Beveridge report there was said that there are 5 giant evils, which are want, ignorance, squalor, and some things more, and that they should be fought by the government. Disease and idleness. So want, did we start in that direction? Want, disease, ignorance, squalor, idleness. Want, disease, ignorance, squalor, idleness. Want, disease, ignorance. Want, disease, ignorance, squalor, idleness. And now that was done, many things were done like that. For example, was introduced when under the education minister. We're going to we don't have a name, but I think it's the car racer. We're going with the hands to the knee, which is back to us, and we're turning in front of the shoulder, which is in front of us. We did not really go that much carefully. R.A. Butler, Richard Austin Butler. We went through him, but we never really repeated him. So it was Richard Austin Butler who was responsible for the education. I guess that means Secretary of State for Education and Science, Margaret Thatcher. Was something like that. We just take it as something. He was responsible for the education and the Education Act, and that introduced the secondary education. So Richard Austin Butler, we should have that name. Dylan Thomas had nothing to do with that. William Beveridge had been named, and Clement Attlee, but we never repeated Richard Austin Butler. So Richard Austin Butler, the secondary education. And the hands to the knee, which is behind us, leaning in front of the other leg. And other things were done, for example, was a system of benefits created to protect the people from the cradle to the grave. And things were nationalized. For example, so they came into public ownership. These were, for example, the coal mines and the steel industry that was named, and gas, electricity, and water supply. And they had here one other thing. It's always confusing. They named railway. Railway. And that had nothing to do with it. Not, also not. And to the next exercise, 1990, and we're just going in front and stretching. The establishment of the welfare state, was it all? I think that is all. It makes sense. So the second thing is how life in Britain changed in the 60s and 70s. That's a bit complicated. But with the 60s it was clear explained, with the 70s we had the economic regression. So in the 60s there was the swinging 60s, and the people got more money, and the situation improved, and they could buy houses and consumer goods, and music came up with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. There was a growth of fashion, cinema, and popular music. And we're going into the pigeon pose, only if you know already how to do it. You can do it if you know how to do it for to enjoy yourself. Things for how life in Britain changed. Yes, things were liberalized. There were then laws were changed concerning divorce and abortion, and it was set through that women had the right to the same payment and were not allowed to be discriminated at the workplace, and also overall that. And that's it. Yes, it was a time of technological progress in the 1960s. We had the example here, the Concorde, and new styles of architecture. We want to go to one thing. They said here something about you should be able to identify all 15 British inventions on this and the previous page. They had here listed just the Concorde, but they named it again there. So what were we talking about? We can't find it. And the next thing here, how life has changed. In the 70s, there were problems in the economy. So it is a bit more complicated to express, because this was talking about the economy and not how life changed. So let's look what we have that they are able to answer the question also in a sense. The prices of goods and raw materials became more expensive. So basically the opposite to the 60s, so that's easy to remember. And we're going to the other side. First to 1990. And we're just going in front. So the first thing is the prices of goods became again more expensive. Yes, there was a balance of payments and problems of importing and exporting, but that's not really life of the people. Many people were striking or something like that. Many industries and services were affected by strikes, and this caused problems. People began to argue that the trade unions were too powerful, but that's not really how life changed. It was a time of serious unrest in Northern Ireland. In 1972, the Northern Ireland Parliament was suspended, and Northern Ireland was directly ruled by the UK government. Some 3,000 people lost their lives in the decades after 1969 in the violence in Northern Ireland. And there we had then here, the Northern Ireland Assembly was elected in 1999, was suspended in 2002, reinstated in 2007. Most paramilitary groups in Northern Ireland have decommissioned their arms that are inactive. Gordon Brown took over as Prime Minister in 2007. So Gordon Brown before David Cameron. And here already Margaret Thatcher, John Major after Margaret Thatcher, helped to establish the Northern Ireland peace process. And in the Perpetual Powers only if I know how to do it already. They did not tell that much how life changed in Britain just in the 70s with prices got again up. They had not said anymore. Here's just the 60s. These are the inventions, and where are the 60s, 70s? And this is again just political. Maybe let's look. No, not really. 1979. Margaret Thatcher, technically just half a year or something. Deregulation saw a great increase of City of London as a route for investments, insurance, and other financial services. Many people could work there, but that is not such a great impact on the day-to-day life of the people. The government made structural changes in the economy through privatization. Some things were then again privatized. British inventions of the 20th century. You need to remember dates. What? Now we should remember the dates of births and deaths. Meant are not the invention. That means we just did not only have to know when the inventions were made, but we should learn the dates of birth and death. Many people are still alive when this book was written. Is it really important to know that Sir Christopher Cockerley, who invented the hovercraft, died in 1999? British inventions of the 20th century. You do not need to remember dates of births and deaths. You do not need to remember dates of births and deaths. Okay, we don't have to know when the people were born. and died. Dates of births and deaths are not important. At least that. It's starting to get really ridiculous. Okay, the last exercise, we're having just a few seconds. Just the soles of the feet together. We're sitting straight up and we're going in front. So as we're learning the inventions, the people who invented them, and when the inventions were done. A little bit context so we actually are able to remember that. I thank you very much, and until next time.